To this Aim High Live. Thank you so much for everyone for coming. This is a Science Live, but this is better than a Science Live. This Science Live welcomes a very special guest who is this week's inspiring guest. And her name is Kathy Lowe. She is a nurse specialist and a passionate campaigner for improved knowledge of female biology, victims of sexual abuse, and she's an expert on hymens. She's also my wonderful aunt. I visited Kathy in Auckland a few years ago, and she sat me down and she talked me through all the same stuff that she's about to talk you guys through. And at the time I was like, oh, I really just want to go to bed because I was really tired. But by the end of it I was like, oh my god, this is such amazing information. How is this not something that far more people know? Fast forward the clock a few years, Kathy and I made a video together that's now had over 500,000 views across platforms, and it is an absolute pleasure to welcome her on. So I'm going to bring her straight in to say hello. Hi Kathy, you're on.
Hey team. So thanks for that lovely intro, Matthew. And yes, for those of you who don't know where Auckland even is, it's in New Zealand. And for those of you who don't even know where New Zealand is, we like to call ourselves, we like to call Australia our West Island. So we have a North Island, a South Island, and the big country next to us is Australia. But we are a country on our own, and over my shoulder you can see it's pitch black outside because it's 9 o'clock at night here. So let's get started, shall we?
Well, before we start, Kathy, could I just say a very quick hello? So there's loads of people in the chat. I'm just going to say hi to Roz, Izzy, Angel said hi, Ms said hi, Kieran said hi, Dorian said hi, get out of the freezer, Catherine, who is in New Zealand at the moment, and Pangolin has said hi as well. I wonder who else is in New Zealand. We've got some New Zealand watchers. Anyway, sorry, do jump in.
No, that's fine. And I like to make really interactive sessions. So I have no problem with people jumping in and interrupting. And Matthew's going to help me out with the chat side of things and the questions that the team might be asking. So let's make this not a session about me, but a session about what you guys want to learn about this. So let's start off with, let's stop for a moment and just think about our last sexual experience now. Please make sure it's a consenting sexual experience. And some of us don't have one to think about, and that's absolutely fine. And some of us have to think back further than others, and that's fine as well. So now I'd like you to just stop for a moment and imagine what it would be like if you had to go to a doctor or a nurse and tell them about that sexual experience, about all the details of it. Where it was, who it was with, what it was like. And let's just think how hard that must be for us to talk about our consenting sexual experiences. So therefore, what on earth must it be like for somebody who has had a non-consenting or a sexual abuse experience? All right. So really important to keep hold of that feeling that we probably have in our tummies when we think about that, because that's a really important gut feeling that teaches us how we have to make this much easier for people to talk about.
So Miz is saying in the chat it would be really, really awkward. Yeah. And I can imagine the same kind of thing.
Yeah. All right, so moving on. What is a hymen? So if I put it out there to you guys, what is a hymen? I'm not interested in a textbook description, just some words. Have you even heard the word hymen before? And if you have, what are some words that you use to describe a hymen?
So we'll wait to see what comes in from people.
Yeah. Anything, or are people a bit nervous to talk about that?
So Angel is saying something that can be broken. Miz is saying part of a lady. Enza Catherine is saying it's a ring. Ooh. Mm-hmm. Catherine. And Enza Catherine is saying maybe it's a muscle.
Mm-hmm.
Angel is saying something painful.
Okay. All right, thank you, team. There's a, it's hard to put those sort of words out there when we're talking about this subject.
Oh, sorry, we've had a longer one actually. Dorian has said it's the thing that people say that breaks when you lose your virginity, even though you can break it whilst riding a bike.
Mm-hmm.
And also, Miz is saying that a lot of these words will be filtered out by Twitch, so there might be people saying more things that we can't see.
Okay. All right, that's fine. What I should say right at the beginning, though, is that we are going to be talking about an intimate subject today, and also we are going to be talking about a subject that can be related to sexual abuse as well. So, because I'm in New Zealand, I don't know what your services are in the country that you're in, but maybe after this I'll talk to Matthew and we'll make sure that there's some phone numbers up there for people to contact services in their countries, if this brings up some issues for you. So that's an important thing to point out at the beginning. All right. So thank you for all those words, those descriptions. And that, generally speaking, is what most people think a hymen is, all of those things. And I usually have a picture of a coffee jar, and it's got a tinfoil seal on the top of it. And that is because a lot of people think a hymen is like that seal on a new jar. And that, I don't know about you, but in my family, we always used to fight over whose turn it was to make that pop noise. With the seal breaking, and that's generally what most people think a hymen is. All right. Now, are you showing the slides as we go, Matthew, or am I just talking?
Everything's coming up. I'm just seeing someone called Wafflebolt who said that I believe virginity is a social construct as well. People are still talking about these things. But yes, no, just tell me what you want me to show everyone, and I'll bring it up.
All right. Can you bring up the one of the diagram? Now, I'm just going to warn people that we're going to have a look at a diagram of what I like to call genital geography. I do have photographs, but in this particular forum, it's probably not safe to use photographs. So we're just going to have a look at a diagram to start with. And have you got that diagram up, Matthew?
Oh, yes.
Okay, great. Lovely. So you can see on that it's pointing to a hymen, which is a cuff or a ring of tissue, which is actually quite near the entrance of the vagina. It's not a membrane or a seal that's high up in the vagina. It's right on the outside. Now, when you're born, if you're somebody born with a vagina, you're born with a hymen. It's very abnormal to be born without a hymen, and it's also very abnormal to be born with a piece of tissue that completely seals your vagina. So it's normal to be born with a hymen, and it's normal to be born with an opening in the middle of that hymen, a hole, if you'd like to describe it as that. What happens when you're born with a vagina is that you have your mother's estrogen on board. That's the female hormones. And what that does, as well as periods and breast development and all that stuff, it makes our hymen a thick, plump piece of tissue. As we get a little bit older, maybe 5 to 8 years old, we lose that estrogen, so our hymen becomes a very thin piece of membrane, or no, not membrane, I should never use that word, a thin cuff of tissue. And then when we get to puberty, we get our own estrogen. Okay, now I can guarantee you're never going to wear a scrunchie in your hair again after this talk. And I think Matthew's got a picture of a scrunchie, but I've also got one here. So if I hold this scrunchie up, it looks like there is no hole in the middle of it. But there actually is. It's just that you can't see it, and it's all bunched up together. So that's what a normal pubertal and adult hymen will look like, is a bunched up piece of tissue, and it will have a hole in the middle of it, and that's all. Okay, now your hymen is attached to your vagina, and your vagina is surrounded by muscles. So if you're relaxed, your vagina will be relaxed, your hymen will be relaxed, there will be a little bit of an opening. If you're tense, the opposite, everything will be bunched up. Okay, all right, any questions or comments at this point?
Well, yeah, I'm just writing that hymens are like scrunchies, and I'm showing the tense one and the relaxed one.
Yep.
So Wafflebolt is saying this is very inspiring, and asking, so someone was asking a question, which I think we'll get to later, about So what about lesbians? Are they able to break one another's hymens as well? I think that's something we're going to get to a little bit later on.
Yep.
And so there's just people are asking what kind of questions they're allowed to ask. So feel free to ask whatever questions you'd like. And we're just monitoring the chat. So we will obviously like remove anything that we think is irrelevant. But you can ask anything that you like, and we will get around to these things. So Kathy, I think, is going to talk you through the whole kind of story, and then when we've got more towards the end, you can. I mean, ask questions as we go, but when we get towards the end, there'll be free questions as well, so you can take it in any direction. But yeah, do ask whatever you want. And Wafflebolt is saying, I like your accent. Kathy's got a great accent.
Well, surprisingly, I was born in Scotland, and I was 8 when I came to New Zealand, and I had a broad Scottish accent. So obviously I don't have any of that left at all now. Okay, so going back to hymens. Now, I work in a child abuse unit in Auckland, and this talk that we're doing today with you guys, this is not a mandatory talk in any medical or nursing schools in any country all around the world. So what you're learning today means that you now are going to know more about hymens and virginity than pretty much most of the doctors and nurses out there, which is mind-boggling, really. So at the child abuse unit where I work, we get referrals from doctors and nurses around the city saying a child was brought to me for alleged sexual assault, and I have examined the child and the hymen was not intact. Now, what they're seeing is a normal hymen with a hole in the middle of it, and they're calling that not intact. But what they don't realise is that that's a normal hymen. They, like the general public, think there was once a seal there, and the fact that there's now a hole in the middle means that something's happened to this child, which is not true. Is that okay? Do we get that? Yep.
Yeah, people are saying, oh wow, and this is groundbreaking. Yeah, and I agree.
Yeah.
Kathy's so great. I'm so glad you guys are here to watch her. So yeah, this is not a broken hymen. This is just a hymen with a hole in the middle, which is exactly what it naturally has.
That's right. Okay, so your hymen, or my hymen, or anybody with a vagina, their hymen is just inside their vaginal entrance, and it's very well protected by 2 layers of lips, or often young people call them flaps. And those are there to protect all our internal bits. Now, when I am riding on a horse, is riding a horse going to break my hymen? Not unless you do something pretty strange on the back of that horse. So, riding on a horse is going to make it bump up and down, but so is the rest of my genitals. So that's not going to damage it. Also, riding a bike in a normal way, you're going to get a little bit of bruising maybe the first time you ride a bike, but it's not going to damage or break that membrane that you think is there. It's just going to wobble up and down. Now, same thing with using a tampon. So a tampon is just going to go through the hole in the middle of the hymen and come back out again. And it's not going to cause damage. It's not going to stop you being a virgin by using a tampon, all right? Now, that said, there's a lot of different normal variant shapes of hymens. So not all hymens are annular like this one. Some of them are crescentic, and some of them actually have little bands of tissue across them. Now, using a tampon can break one of those little bands sometimes, but it's not a big deal, okay? And I think it's just important that some young people will have more trouble using a tampon than others. I think it's important we understand our anatomy, okay?
So Miz is saying, I've lived my whole life with these myths and I feel lied to. Dorian is saying, same, and Angel is saying, me too. Wafflebolt is saying, do men have hymens?
Okay, that's a good question. Men don't. But when we think about it, if let's imagine for a minute that we're all doctors and nurses, and where somebody's coming to us, if say, I don't know, 16-year-old girl, and they want to know if they're a virgin or not. Are we going to be able to tell by looking at their hymen whether a penis or anything else has gone through there or not? Now, the answer to that is no. We cannot tell in the majority of cases because your hymen is designed to do this. It's designed to expand and go back again, all right?
I've got your picture
so
here of someone looking into a bin with a question mark.
Someone looking into a bin?
Yeah, you've got that picture that you sent me of someone looking with a question mark above their head into like a box or something with the lid open.
That's a maze. That's the Virginity maze. But we'll talk about that one in just a minute. Okay. Yeah, that's a good one. So how do we tell if we can't tell by looking at a girl's vagina whether she's had sex? How do we tell? And the answer to that is we ask. Okay.
So what about some of these myths then?
Okay. Is that you saying that, Matthew?
Oh, wait, actually, yeah, Miz is saying you ask them nicely, Dorian is saying you ask, and Karen is saying you ask as well, yeah.
And might they lie?
Let's wait to see what people say. By the way, Kathy, I didn't say this to you before, but there's about a 3-second delay on us asking things and people getting it. So that's why there might be a little delay on people. So Miz is saying they might, and Dorian is saying, yeah, but it's up to them. And Kickster's saying they might as well, and Get Out of Freezer is saying they might, but that's okay. They might, maybe because they might be ashamed.
Okay, and you know what? Boys have been able to lie about whether they're a virgin or not for thousands of years. But for thousands of years, we've kept this myth going that we can tell if a girl's a virgin or not, when in fact we can't tell by looking at either. And actually, where this whole myth on hymens and virginity come from. It's about male control over female sexuality. So once again, just reinforce that point. We cannot tell by looking at a boy's penis whether he's a virgin or not, but for thousands of years we've thought that you can tell by looking at a girl, when in fact you can't tell by looking at either.
So to revisit the point that we covered before, so Angel has just asked, so the hymen doesn't actually break? ?
No. Okay, so there is a very old study, but it's still a very good one, and I think Matthew's got a slide of that one from 1978. I think it's a very ancient study. It talks about bleeding the first time you have sex.
Oh, I don't have that slide, so you'll have to describe it.
Okay, that's fine. So what happened in the study, basically what it proved was that if we had 100 people and they had not had sex and they all had sex tonight, around about 50% will bleed and 50% won't. Okay? Now, the 50% who don't bleed, all that happens is that maybe they're a little bit more relaxed, maybe they're a little bit more lubricated. The hymen is stretching. Now, because this is a piece of tissue that has never stretched before, ever, in your entire life, the first time it stretches, it is going to feel a bit strange, a little bit uncomfortable, and maybe a little bit sore. It's like if you had a piece of tissue on your arm and you were stretching it for the very first time. It's going to feel a little bit weird. And all that's happening is the penis is going through there and the hymen's going back again. Now, the 50% who bleed, maybe they're a little bit more tense, maybe they're not quite as well lubricated, and the hymen is stretching, but you can develop a little tear on the side of the hymenal tissue. And your hymenal tissue is very much like your lips around your mouth. So it bleeds very quickly, but it heals up very quickly. And that's where the blood is coming from if you do bleed. But it doesn't mean that you're not a virgin if you don't bleed. It just means you're one of those 50%. Yeah?
We've got a couple of good questions here, which you can choose to answer later if you want to carry on going into myths and things. But so Beetroot Bird is asking, how can we know so much about men's reproductive organs, or so much more about male reproductive organs than female organs? Female organs seem like such a mystery still in 2020.
Can I just make a comment to that one? And that's primarily, I think, because up until not that long ago, men were doctors and did the anatomy and not women. So, a lot of this has been based on men's beliefs, not women's beliefs. The other thing is that when I do this talk, it never fails to amaze me because I teach in high schools, not this particular talk, but I do a bit of sex ed in high schools. How many girls and boys don't realise that girls have 3 holes down below? So they've got wheeze, vagina, poos. And a lot of girls think that they have to take the tampon out before they go wheeze, otherwise the wheeze can't get out. So, there's some really important basics that you're absolutely right. We just don't know the answer. We haven't known the answers to.
The next question is, when the police examine someone after possible forced contact, what are they looking for if the hymen doesn't change? And that feels like something we're about to go on to. So you can answer that now, or we can move on to it later if you want.
I know, that's a really good question. So basically, all our doctors go to court with a scrunchie in their briefcase because they have to educate the judge, the lawyers, and the jury, who are just like the general public and don't know this information, about hymens. Because here you've got a judge, lawyers, and jury sitting there and say a 16-year-old girl who says she was raped, and yet the medical report says normal findings. So they can't understand that. They're like, well, it obviously didn't happen then because it was normal. But what they don't realise is that after sexual assault, it's normal to be normal. It's completely normal for us not to have any findings after sexual assault. Now, I'm talking physical findings of the hymen, okay? Obviously, we can look for any damage or bruising. We're looking for sexually transmitted infections. We're looking for semen. We're looking for trace evidence. We can still do all of that stuff, but it's also really empowering for the person who has been raped to realise that they are the same down below physically as somebody who has not had sex. They look exactly the same down below. So they're not damaged goods. They're not, marked or any of those things that they think they are. And they can choose to share their first sexual experience with someone that's of their choice. So if someone has been raped, they can still call themselves a virgin because they didn't choose for that rape to happen or that sexual assault. They get to choose who they want to share that gift or that quality of virginity with. It's totally up to them.
So if we can skip forward in the slides, I've got that great definition of virginity that you sent me, which is by Dr. Christine Foley. Shall I show over on that?
Yeah. Yep, that's perfect.
Oh. Why can't I? Ooh, I know why. Wait a minute, everyone. I've just got to move it across. It turns out this thing is too big. I will show you all in just a moment. So do you know Dr. Christine Foley?
I've worked with Christine for a very, very, very long time. And she and I have been basically we're saving the world one hymen at a time. But as you can see from that quote that's up there, does it mention the word hymen in that quote anywhere?
Nope.
No. And that's because virginity is not a physical quality like we've all been brought up to believe. It is a quality that you carry in your heart or your head, and you can't lose it, and nobody can take it away from you. Only you can choose to share that quality with someone. So that is why somebody who's been sexually abused, who didn't choose for that to happen, can still call themselves a virgin if they want to.
There are a lot of people saying how much more people should be taught this. Why is this not being taught in school? They teach you more about the Cold War than they teach you about our sexual organs, which is crazy. Agreed. Right.
Yeah, absolutely. And bright spark people, but that's exactly what you and I talked about, isn't it, Matthew? How, why isn't this commonly known? And, even in today's age, it's still not routinely taught at nursing or medical schools, but I believe everybody should know it, not just doctors and nurses. Yeah. Okay, shall we talk a little bit about some of the cultural myths?
Sounds good.
Yeah. Okay. Let me know how we're going for time, Matthew. So
you got plenty.
Okay.
You got plenty. I'll rush you if you need, but you're fine.
Okay, great. So. As I'm in New Zealand, I often talk about some of the cultures around New Zealand and the beliefs around hymens. For example, in Tonga, there is a kava drinking ceremony, and the bride and groom then go off and have sex, and then the sheet is displayed to the bride's family with the blood on it to say, congratulations, your daughter was a virgin, so now we'll have a big feast because you did really well to keep her safe all those years. If there's no blood on the sheet, then they're still allowed to get married, but there's no feast given to the bride's family because it's kind of like, oops, you must have ridden a bike, or maybe you had sex when you didn't know about it, but, never mind, off you go.
So this is in the island, this is in Tonga. What are some of the... Sorry, you were still going on the story. Carry on. I shouldn't interrupt you.
No, you're right.
I was just going to say that I've got up here some kind of pictures of some of the myths that people sometimes associate with virginity and have done throughout history. What are those? So I've got here a unicorn. And a bee.
Okay, all right, that's great. No, that's good, that one. So basically, we've kind of talked a little bit about hymens now. Now we're moving on to the virginity aspect of that, and we've addressed the fact that hymens don't have anything to do with virginity, even though we think they do. And when we all think back to the first little part of this session, and I asked you, what is a hymen? The words that are normal that I always get are the words of a membrane, something that breaks, something to do with virginity, all of those things, except for, of course, the person from New Zealand who said it was a cuff or a circle of tissue, because, maybe they'd been to my talk before, but... generally speaking, those are the other words that we always get. But when you look back in the history books as to what a virgin is, apparently a virgin can tame unicorns, walk through a swarm of bees and not get stung, and reignite the flame of a candle with a single glance. And apparently a virgin doesn't have big breasts. So... and
you've got to achieve all of those, right? It's a tick list. So you've got to tame the unicorns and walk through the swarm of bees. And then even when you've done that, you've got to relight the candle. Yeah, and you can't have big breasts. So, next time you go to the GP, your doctor, to find out if you're a virgin, just make sure the doctor's got a unicorn, a swarm of bees, a candle and a breast measuring device, and you'll be fine. Is he saying, are these myths about all virgins or just females? Okay. Just females, and also that's a really good question, because just females, but also in particular we're talking about heterosexual sex, because you'll have heard me mention already penis and vagina. There was a question further back about lesbians. Basically, same thing though for a lesbian, because if you've got two lesbians having sex, even if there is penetrative sex, there isn't a seal there that's going to get broken. If they're using objects or their fingers or whatever, then it's just the same thing. It's just going to stretch and go back again. Yeah? Okay. So we talked a little bit about Tonga. Apparently in Italy, it's common knowledge that you take some chicken blood to bed and you put it on the sheet to make you're an instant virgin. So that's an easy one. When I did this talk in Fiji, actually, a woman came up to me the next day and said she had gone home that night and cried all night with her sister, but they were tears of happiness, because when her sister had got married, she didn't bleed on her wedding night. And so ever since then, the husband would say to her, if you don't do as I tell you to, I'm going to tell your family you weren't a virgin when we got married. And yet she was just one of the 50% that didn't bleed. So that's just a really important example of how this myth is being used still today to control women. Yeah. What other slides have we got up there, Matthew? So the ones I've got religion and virginity. So I've got some quotes from the Quran, Hindu religion. Shall I bring those up? Yep, absolutely. Okay, so they talk about those ones are the Quran and the Old Testament of the Bible and Hindu. So shall I just give people a moment to read those? Yeah. Okay, so my question here is, do these things still happen today, in today's world? So Miz is saying yes. And Pangolin is saying yes, and so is Dorian Hyde. Yes, in some cultures. Dorian is saying, so Izzy's saying, it's insane that the myths about bleeding have lasted so long, even though half of people don't. And Angel is saying, yes, I'm sure they do. So is Kieran, Roz, Galavri. Yeah, everyone's saying that these things still persist.
Yeah. Okay, and yet how long ago were these documents written?
Oh, I'll go back to the documents.
How long ago was the Bible written?
I actually don't know. I don't know the answer to that because I know it was rewritten a few times.
Yeah, okay, basically thousands of years ago. All three of those documents were written thousands of years ago, and they were probably written by men. Now, that's not because I think men knew the right things and decided, let's just write the wrong things, not at all. But, you know, thousands of years ago, we knew very little about human anatomy, and now we know a lot more. So I'm not here to say stop believing everything you've always believed. What I am here to say is that I think it's super important that we reframe our beliefs on hymens and virginity based on what we now know as fact, not on what people may have thought thousands of years ago. So that's an important message when it comes to religion and virginity.
So what's this this image of, is it a mass wedding that I've got here?
Yep. Okay. So at the top of these slides, you'll see that there's a date. So that one was 2009. And what these slides are showing you is
dates. So there is no date.
Okay.
You'll have to tell everyone. Cool.
All right. So every year, basically, I add another slide to this collection to show people that this myth about hymens just keeps going. You know, we haven't managed to kill it, and we won't kill it for a very long time. So the state-run mass wedding in Madhya Pradesh, where all the women were forced to take a virginity test, and 15 women failed the test and were not allowed to get married. It didn't say how they failed or why they failed, but it's actually really sad because those 15 women didn't get virginity classifications, and probably because they couldn't ever marry, ended up with jobs as either prostitutes or labourers or something like that because they had no other option because they couldn't marry.
And then I have this picture of schoolgirls in Sumatra.
Okay, so that was 2013, and there was an idea there in Indonesia that all girls at the school would have their hymen examined each year to prove that they were virgins, and as long as their hymen was intact, they could stay in school. If their hymen happened to be broken, then they would get chucked out of school. But boys had no test at all. Now, of course, that's to the general public, that's based on the fact that you can't tell by looking at a boy whether he's had sex or not, but that you can tell by looking at a girl, when in fact we know now you can't tell by looking at either.
The next picture I have is this is police officers in Indonesia.
Okay. Now, this is in the Indonesian police and the military, where the women entering either the police or the military had to undergo, or still have to undergo, a 2-finger virginity test, which involves somebody placing 2 fingers into their vagina, and somehow that tells you whether they're a virgin or not. I have no idea what 2 fingers in your vagina actually tells you, other than you can fit 2 fingers in your vagina. Who cares?
Lots of people are saying this makes me so sad and mad, and how messed up it is, and how uncomfortable and invasive that must be. And wait, and Angel is saying, and even if a girl lost her virginity, why does that mean she can't be educated? That's so horrible. Why should not being a virgin make you unable to get married? That's so stupid. Right, I've got this textbook definition here, which is from... Is this textbook definition from Pakistan?
It is.
Yeah.
It is, yeah. This is just a 2019, so this was just last year. And basically what it's showing you is on the left-hand side, those are the classifications for a virgin, and on the right-hand side, those are not a virgin. And this was just last year. So, you know, there's so many wrong things on that. Like, I think the very last one at the bottom says that in order to be a virgin, you have to have smooth hemispherical breasts. And if you're not a virgin, then you have large pendulous breasts. Well, you know, there's no pathophysiological basis to that. You know, having sex makes no difference to your breast size. So, yeah, it's just an example of how it just doesn't even make any sense.
I can't believe this was last year. That's the thing. You and I made that video, and I kind of felt, because obviously I'd heard you say all of this, and I thought, wow, we're really on the path to changing things for the better, and like, you know, people are starting to find out about this, and I hadn't seen this from last year. This is an update from what I've seen most recently, and that's actually unbelievable that this is still going on. And Tui is saying, my God, where is this from? It's so bizarre. This is from a medical textbook in Pakistan. And Beatrice Bird is saying, can't women protest against this? Can't we all protest against this? I feel that we cannot possibly build a society that will work in the long term unless we have sexual equality. So I think we should all be protesting against this because it's for the benefit of all of us, not just for women. And Angel is saying a medical textbook, ! Question. Yes, a medical textbook. Right, so I have quite a few other things from you here. I have the rapper T.I.
Yeah, this was just, it was last year or this year. He was an American rapper who hit the papers because he announced that every year on his daughter's birthday, he would take her for a visit to the gynecologist to have her hymen examined to say she was still a virgin. You may or may not have heard about that, but, you know, just another example of how this keeps going.
Someone said this in the chat as well, and now I've got a queue of, I can't remember where this is, but this is somewhere in Africa where people are queuing up for a test.
Yep. So these are virginity testing ceremonies. This is in the Zulu tribes in South Africa. Now, this is one of the only studies that I ever found, and still have ever found, that went into some detail about how they classified a virgin. So these girls line up and then they go behind a blanket. And I think the next slide, the girl's lying on a mat and the virginity tester is having a look at her genitals. Yep. Okay, so the virginity tester has a look, and so do all the other village women. You know, they all have a peer at her genitals. And then you get a certificate, and that's the next slide with a line of girls standing proudly with their certificates in front of them.
I haven't actually got that, but I've got the classifications. So
okay, great. So yeah, so they get a certificate to say whether they're an A, B, or a C grade classification. And have you got the A grade one there?
Yeah.
Okay, so in order to be an A grade virgin, off the top of my head, it's
I can read through them if you want. So labia very light pink, size of vaginal opening small, vagina very tight and dry, white dot or lacy veil clearly evident, eyes should reflect virginity in that they look innocent, breasts firm and taut, muscles behind knees should be tight and taut.
Right, so everybody just check the muscles behind your knees and see if they're feeling tight and virginal. It's a good check. How are you feeling? You feeling virginal there, Matthew?
100%, yeah.
Excellent, lovely.
There's some tight underknee muscles.
The white dot, it's like a cobwebby appearance that they describe that they can see, and all I can think of is that that's ovulatory mucus that they're seeing. But some of the prostitutes know about that, and they put a bit of toothpaste into their vagina to make it look like they've got that cobweb appearance there, so that they can get their certificate, when in fact they're not a virgin at all. And I think good on them.
I've got the C grade classifications here as well.
Yep, so in order to be a C grade, your vagina is too wide and too wet. And basically then it just goes on to say that girls who don't pass are actually contagious to virgins. So it's really important that the mother is warned to keep these girls away from virgins because of the contagiousness, the loss of virginity will spread from these girls.
Izzy Rose is
Now,
saying, how can you have different grades of virginity? Like implying, what does a B grade even mean? And other people are saying, eyes looking innocent. What? That's totally crazy. I think that after taking this exam, my eyes would reflect anger and rage. Yeah, I'm not surprised. Interesting title of the publication. I wonder if these parts of the culture have been there for a long time, or if they have developed since HIV and AIDS. Actually, go on.
Yeah, no, that's actually a good point. And they have been there a long time, but they did see a resurgence during HIV and AIDS, partly around the fact that it was commonly known that if you had HIV or AIDS and you had sex with a virgin, it would cure you. So, yeah, I mean, I actually wouldn't want to get a virginity certificate in an environment like that. I'd rather fail things and then, not be prime option.
That was a terrible myth, wasn't it? I mean, it still persists, doesn't it? This idea that if you want to cure yourself of virginity, you just have sex with a virgin, which is obviously... cure yourself of HIV, you have sex with a virgin, which is insane. Anyway, sorry, do carry on. I know that...
No, that's right. And then there is a picture of a map of New Zealand.
Oh, I haven't got the map of New Zealand, but I'm going to draw it. I'm going to test myself on how well I can draw New Zealand.
All right, off you go. Shall I talk while you do that?
Yeah, it's going to be bad.
What a shame I can't see it. I'll have to see it afterwards. Okay. So the reason I put the map of New Zealand up is that when I do this talk in New Zealand, I'm very clear that I point out to people that, there is no country in the world that does the hymen and virginity stuff absolutely perfectly, and New Zealand certainly doesn't, because one of the procedures you can get in New Zealand is a hymenal reconstruction to repair the hymen as if nothing's ever happened, and these procedures happen all around the world, not just New Zealand. So one of the things they do is they get the edges of your hair scrunchie or your hymen and they stitch it together and they leave a little hole for the blood to come out when you have your period or, from the surgery. Now, once that's healed, what's it going to be like when you first have sex?
We'll see what people are saying. Meanwhile, Get Out of the Freezer is telling me that I should give New Zealand a top hat to make it look smarter. So I'll just pop that on.
Oh, okay, put a top hat on. Righto.
And people are saying, Matthew, this is a terrible map. And other people are saying it would be super painful. Yeah, oh man, that sounds so awful. And Yoli Pop is saying, my friend can't create an account, but wanted to say this. When I was in Pakistan, something was really wrong, and I was having my period for like 5 weeks. When I went to the gynecologist, she refused to vaginally check me because I was a virgin, and she didn't want to break my hymen.
See, that's just I'm sorry that happened to you, and that's just another example of how even that gynecologist in Pakistan didn't realise that you're not going to break anything. You're not going to affect anybody's virginity. It's more important to figure out why you've been bleeding for 5 weeks continuously. But, just another example. So you're absolutely right. Once you have sex after the surgery, basically it's scar tissue, so it will rip and there will be blood. Now, my problem is that this procedure is called a hymenal reconstruction, and the word reconstruct means put back together. Well, your hymen was never like that to start with. And so it's actually construction of a whole new organ that was never meant to be there. Yeah? And I am all for women's rights. So I think that if a woman decided to have this procedure done, knowing all of that information, fine, go ahead and do it. But I really don't think they realise that they're actually having a new organ made rather than something put back together. Yeah.
So what's this image that I have of something that comes in a box that was in your...
Oh, sure. Okay. Now, when you go away from here and you Google hymens and virginity, just make sure, first of all, you clear your history when you're done, and be aware that probably 80 to 90% of the information you find on the internet will be incorrect. Now, this little box is just an example of what happens when you put virginity into a Google search. And up comes this image of an artificial virginity hymen. And this is something you can buy over the internet. And apparently in the little description, it says you insert it into your vagina. It will feel a little bit tight. When your lover penetrates, it will ooze out a little bit of liquid that looks like blood. And all you have to do is add in a few moans and groans, do a little bit of acting, and they will think that you're a virgin. But for this product, it's only $22.99 US, and you get 50 artificial hymens. So I think they'd make really good stocking stuffers for Christmas this year. I thought I might do an order.
Wow.
But that slide's just an example of how the information on the internet is wrong. And yeah.
Loads of people are laughing at this. Also, wait, there's a question back there from Wututui about isn't this FGM the kind of hymen reconstruction surgery? And essentially, it is, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
It absolutely is. And yet, a lot of us look at FGM at only being on the African continent, when in fact we do it, we choose to do it to ourselves in every country around the world. Yeah. So then what I usually do to finish off with is I then say to people, but if you want to find the right information, and there's a website that we use in New Zealand called Just Facts, and I wrote the information on there, but I also then promote the video that Matthew and I have done previously, because it's only 7 minutes, and it basically gives you a rundown of everything that we've just talked about now, in a very short 7 minutes.
Do check out this video so Kathy says that at the end of her talk she gives people homework where they should all show it to someone who doesn't know this already, and it's so far been viewed by about 550,000 people, and hopefully we can get it up to 8 billion, and then we'll have everyone who's watched it in the world. But yeah, this is something as well that Kathy and I I really want to make a new version of this with Kathy, because Kathy is constantly learning even more information about this. And as you can see, if you've watched even just a part of this, you can see that the kind of information that Kathy is communicating is absolutely vital, and it's stuff that everybody should know. And there's a huge amount of work that still needs to be done in the world to ensure that people find out about this. I've got some questions, some kind of wrap-up questions that you've got. Should we go through those, and then should we take questions from everyone?
Yep, sure.
So the first one I've got is, a hymen is best demonstrated with.
And then I think I've got an A, B, C, D, haven't I? So basically what I do when I've done the talk is I've got some questions that I test people. And the first one, as Matthew said, is what is the best prop to use when demonstrating a hymen? And the answer to that one is a scrunchie.
Hair scrunchie. Everyone's pouring in the answers. Great. Next question.
Good. Do you want to read the question out, Matthew, and see if they come up with the answers?
The hymen nearly always has a hole in it. So everyone's pouring in true. Great.
Brilliant.
Catherine is saying, I feel awkward about using my hair scrunchie now. Don't, Catherine, embrace it. It's a beautiful thing. Does bleeding at first sex mean you are a virgin? And we're getting loads of no's pouring in. Great.
Good.
So at first sex, the hymen will always break. Yes or no? Everyone's getting A+ all around. Yep. No is the right answer to that. And girls can always tell. Can you always tell if a pubertal girl has had penetrative vaginal sex by looking at her vagina? And again, everyone is saying no. This is the big thing, isn't it? Just the idea that this was the thing that angered me so much, kind of thinking back through all of history and seeing how much control men have had over females, which I already knew was a large amount of control, but just seeing that it went even to this level of convincing women that we could tell whether they were virgins or not, which is absolutely dreadful. And finally, has someone who has been sexually abused necessarily lost their virginity? Everyone's saying no, no, sir, no, no, no. And yeah, this is
okay. Well, you know what? That's the test. That's the exam at the end of this whole presentation. And if the team has managed to answer those questions and got the right answers, I'm extremely happy, because that's all it is. In a nutshell, I just want people to get those questions right.
Everyone has scored super highly. So thanks so much, everyone, for coming to this. It would be great if people can pour into the chat whatever questions they'd like to ask, because Kathy and I are going to hang around here for a little bit, so that we can keep answering your questions, basically. I'm also just going to quickly show you what is coming up over the next few days. Let me just grab that. So here is what's later on this afternoon. We've got Is My Green Your Green Part 1, which some of you will have seen a little bit before because I started it earlier on and had to stop it. Can Blueberries Make You Live Longer by Dr. Hannah Bolland. Phil is doing What Rhymes with Orange, and Hannah's starting to talk about global development on Thursday. And then also on Thursday you can join Phil, and you can actually you will have the chance to become a published author, because we're going to start writing a book together with the AIM High School. So do come along to any of those, and if this was your first time here, then do go to our website and sign up for the weekly schedule and share about the school on your with your friends and family, and also social media as well. Do follow us on social media. We're on @AimHighLive. I will write it just here, but now in a moment I will grab your questions and we'll start putting them to Kathy. But yeah, the social media is Aim High. Ooh, I'm so bad at writing. Aim High Live. So do follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, all those kinds of things. And yeah, thanks so much for coming all. Right, let's go to questions. So, Angel is saying, what's a good age to be teaching this? And I think that's a good question.
Because it is a good question.
Because we had to put an age limit on this talk, and we didn't know what to put, and obviously as a new school online we had to be quite careful with what we put, but actually my belief is that it should be taught to younger than the age limit that we put on this talk. So sorry, I'll put it to Kathy.
Yeah, no, I'd agree with that, and I actually steer away from ages, and developmental stages are more important, because we know that many of us, you can have a 13-year-old who's functioning at a 21-year-old, and you can have a 21-year-old who's functioning at a 13-year-old. So it's not about chronological age, it's about developmental stage.
Great answer. So Beatrice Bird is saying, why aren't school textbooks being updated currently to have this information? And I will just quickly go back to this textbook that came out last year in Pakistan to show people how false the textbooks are being are still. So yeah, why aren't textbooks being updated?
Yeah, I don't know why they're not being, except that, as I said, a part-time job I have is teaching body safe programs in some of the New Zealand schools, and we teach about consent and how to be a good friend and where to get help, and what sexual abuse is and all of that stuff. But I'm not allowed to teach any of this physical stuff, which really frustrates me. I believe that, well, certainly the questions that we get in the Ask It basket or the question bucket at the end of the class, the majority of them are around physical things, like what does sex feel like, and how big is a normal penis, and like really basic stuff. So we're not doing it well at all.
So some other questions that have come in, which I think have come in from other platforms because they've come in via AIM High Live, is any of this taught on any syllabus around the world, and is there any country that we can learn from that's doing it right?
Short answer, no.
No country in the world that's doing it well?
No, not that I know.
And Catherine is saying, Kathy, you should do one of these at my school. So, well, Kathy's based in Auckland, and I believe you can reach her by searching online. How do people reach you?
Probably my email is my best way to contact me. I look at that frequently. you want me to give you that one?
Yeah, good. Yeah, if you're happy for that to go
Yeah.
out.
So
it will go out publicly.
Yeah, that's okay. It's Kathy L, so KATHYL at adhb.govt.nz.
So yeah, do get in touch with Kathy if you'd like her to speak, and even if you're not in New Zealand, she might be able to do more online as well, because she's continuing to try and create positive change in a world where still it's really hard to make people listen. And it kind of reminds me of my friend Jo Ruxton, who runs the Plastic Oceans Foundation, and when she began campaigning about plastic, nobody was listening, and just year after year, it felt that she was making no progress. And then eventually these things started to change because she just heroically kept going. And my feeling is that Kathy is like this, and she's one of the great heroes of our world who is trying to create positive change with something that needs to be better taught. So if everyone could do their bit in trying to spread this information, I'll just show you one more time actually the video that we made together, so if anyone was looking for the title. You can just Google this. Where is it? If you just Google...
If anybody's listening from Hawaii and would like me to come to Hawaii to do a presentation, I'd be keen.
Yeah, same actually. Yeah, I think I'd be needed. So yeah, if you search The Truth About Virginity, and it's on Instagram and Facebook and YouTube, and it's on if you just search it with my name, then it will come up. And I think, right, let's go back to here. I think that might be... So the gentleman scientist is saying, I know you showed a URL, but I was not quick enough to grab it. I might be interested to prepare some teaching material in German based on this, if I am allowed to do so. I think that would be very welcome to prepare this in German. I think that Kathy and I both agreed that the further this spreads, the better. So please do. Aim High Live has posted the YouTube link actually for the video. So that's a good 7-minute summary. It's basically got a little bit of me kind of whittering on about nonsense at the beginning, and then Kathy takes over and gives you all the actually important stuff. So do watch that. And do spread it around. And lots of people are saying, thank you, Kathy. Information is so crucial to ensuring women will no longer be oppressed all around the world, which I think is very true. And I think it's probably a good point to end on, since we've just gone over an hour. So yeah, I think we'll say thank you very much and goodbye. Thank you everyone for coming, and please do spread the word. And thank you so much, Kathy, for being amazing and inspiring as ever.
All right, thanks, team.
The thank yous are pouring in. All right, farewell everyone, and see you later for my one as well. When is it? In 2 hours. I'm doing it's my green, your green. So I'll see you guys there. Thanks all.